Hello, my name is Dr. Janet Bavanese, and I am the Interim Dean at Jacksonville State University School of Education. I'm also the chair of the Jacksonville State University Reading Specialist Program, and I wanted to come this morning to talk to you a little bit. Hello, my name is Dr. Janet Bavanese, and I'm Interim Dean of the School of Education at Jacksonville State University. I also serve as the program chair for the Reading Specialist Program, and I wanted to talk to you just a little bit about the CIEP process. So I want to just let you know that when I first started looking at CIEP, I was very overwhelmed and I thought, gosh, this is so much to do. There's 5 key assessments. You have to have all of the things about the field experiences. You have to list descriptions for all of the courses that you have in a program, and it felt very overwhelming. But then I thought about it and I thought deeply, and I began to understand that CIEP is really all about just improving your program. I started out by thinking about what my program, Reading Specialist Program, which as you know is an advanced program that prepares candidates that have prior teaching experience at the master's level to become reading specialists in their P12 settings. So I started thinking about what I really wanted my candidates to come out of the program with. And once I started thinking about that, I was able to go back to the 5 key assessments and sort of chisel down to what I wanted each of those key assessments to yield for me in looking at the candidate performance so that I could then figure out what we were strong in, what we were more challenged by, and I could make those adjustments to improve the program, ultimately improving my candidate performance, and then ultimately improving P12 student learning. So I started out by looking at my courses and writing course descriptions that accurately portrayed what the content was. So when you look at your CIEP, you have all of your standards, and you're supposed to map your courses to the standards to show how the standards are portrayed in the courses, where that content is, and also the order in which courses are taken plays into that as well. So content should build across a program, across the different courses, and you should have kind of an even layout of the standards. So you don't want all the standards in one course and only one standard in another course. So it helps to kind of look at that and envision it. And again, thinking about what do I want my candidates to learn and be able to come out of this being able to do at the end of the program. So I mapped the courses, the content to the courses, and then I started looking at the key assessments. So once I got the courses mapped, I went to key assessment 1, which is praxis. I found out some very interesting things when I started to drill down in that data. First of all, reading specialists in my program always have a high rate of success on the reading specialist praxis. So that's a high pass rate, right? But when you really start drilling down into those subcategories, I found out, hey, we're super strong in foundational knowledge, but we're kind of medium, if you will, in professional learning and leadership. So that made me go back to my courses that I had just course mapped and take a look to see, hey, where am I covering this literacy leadership, and where does that take place in the program? And how am I advising my candidates to go take the praxis? So I made some quick adjustments there. I moved around some content a little bit to make the literacy, learning, and leadership content more accessible to candidates. And then I also went back and tweaked where I advised them to take the praxis. So that was one thing that immediately came out of the CIEP process. And again, keeping in mind, this is not just a report I'm doing. I'm actually trying to improve my candidate knowledge and performance when they are finished with the program. After that, I started looking at how I wanted to measure content knowledge. So key assessment 2 is all about content knowledge. So every program has content standards. So whether you're preparing candidates at the initial licensure level, or whether you're preparing candidates at the advanced licensure level, like reading specialist, you have to have a way to measure the actual content knowledge of the candidates. So again, thinking about reading specialists, these are people that are already certified. These are people that are likely teaching already in schools. So I knew that I wanted to make content knowledge very project based. So I wanted reading specialist candidates to have projects and ways that they could take the content knowledge they're learning and immediately try to apply it into the P12 setting where they were teaching or where they had a placement for their practicum or internship. So what resulted out of this is a 2-semester portfolio. And candidates work on 12 different projects. So there's 6 main categories of standards in reading specialist. So each of those 6 standards have 2 projects. So candidates work on these projects throughout these 2 semesters, and at the end they have a portfolio or a real good defined body of work that really shows how they were able to take the content knowledge, align it to the standards, and apply it to the real work of being a reading specialist out in our P12 schools. So that was my key assessment too. And I just love that because it makes the work meaningful for the candidates. So I'm still able to see, what their content knowledge is, and yet they're out doing work, actually standing in the shoes, if you will, of a reading specialist while they're doing it, applying what they've learned in the classes. And that's my key assessment too. So for key assessment 3 is planning. So I started thinking about that, and I thought, when we talk about planning and we talk about reading specialists, these are people that already are certified. They are out teaching in schools for the most part, and they have at least 2 full years of full-time experience in the classroom. So planning needs to take on a higher level approach. So I started thinking about aligning the reading specialist standards to a reading specialist lesson plan. This lesson plan goes far beyond just what a regular classroom teacher would have as a lesson plan, because a reading specialist needs to take into account not only their own teaching ability and reflection and ability to impact student learning, but reading specialists often are tasked with coaching and helping other teachers to get to those higher levels of performance. So the reading specialist lesson plan had to have elements that not only addressed what the candidate could do themselves in teaching and learning, but also how they could help others to get there. So I designed a lesson plan, aligned it to the standards, and then I placed this going back to my course descriptions and going back to my matriculation through the program. I went back and I placed it in 4 different courses. So over the course of 4 courses in the Reading Specialist program, candidates practice this planning at a higher level using 3 to 5 day learning segments aligned to the Reading Specialist standards, and they have 49 opportunities to show their proficiency in lesson planning. So you might be thinking 49 opportunities, oh my goodness. Well, if you think about it this way, what do you want candidates to come out with at the end? Remember in the beginning of the video, I said that when I first looked at CIEP, I thought, well, this is just a lot to do. But then I started wrapping my head around, hey, this is a way for me to really look at the outcomes of the program on the candidate learning and then eventually on P12 learning and teacher learning out in the school. So I want a lot of opportunities for people to show what they can do. So 49 opportunities across 4 classes. And the beauty of this is that I can look early in the program, I can collect this data early in the program, and I can tell, hey, you're challenged by looking at the literate environment, how to create that, or maybe you're challenged by how to use foundational knowledge to improve student learning. But I can help the candidates from early on look at these different standards. I can help them understand where they're performing strongly and where they need to improve. And over time, over these 49 opportunities, they have ample time to take into account the feedback, to peer with one another. I built some peer review work in there. And then by the time they get to the end of the program, I have a pretty good picture of how they've progressed all the way through. And I can use that particular data that I'm reporting for CIEP, I can use that to improve my program. So if I start to identify trends early on they're struggling with, this particular thing, or later they're still struggling with this particular thing, or they're really strong on this here, I can use that data then to make further adjustments in the program. And then again, those adjustments then impact reading specialist learning, which then impact teacher learning and P12 learning out in our schools. So, looking at the CAPE, the CHIP process, not CAPE, just got through with some CAPE stuff, but looking at the CHIP process really helps you to drill down and think about the outcomes of your program. So again, going back to the beginning, if you look at CHIP and you think about, oh, this is so much to do. I have to do these 5 key assessments and write all of this stuff and these narratives and provide everything. If you look at it like that, it will be a chore. But if you look at it like, hey, what am I doing to impact the learning of my students at the college, at the university level, and how are my students then going to impact P12 student learning out in the schools, and in my case, teacher learning out in the schools, it makes it easier to negotiate the different key assessments and how you're going to fine-tune and look at what your program can do based on the data. So again, I just wanted to give you a small little a little talk about this, or a little think aloud really about what we did. So if you have questions about CHIP, I have found that addressing them to the state staff is very helpful. They, answer back. They're very helpful in giving guidance, or if you're just not sure. It's also helpful to reach out to partner institutions to peer with one another. So feel free to reach out to any of us here at JSU, or some of your other colleagues. I find that talking things out, or just really having someone else to sound something on, is helpful. We did that here at JSU, even among our different programs. So we exchanged our CHIP reports. We helped each other read and review things. We asked each other pertinent questions. What did you mean here? Or is this enough times that you're going to assess something there? And we had very good outcomes on our CHIP processes. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and good luck.